Hi, this is Allan McKay. Welcome to episode 87. I'm speaking with Arman Yahin from Main Road Post. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Allan McKay podcast. Allan is an Emmy Award-winning visual effects artist and mentor to many leading industry experts. Listen in as Allan talks with other industry leaders in film, video games, and visual effects about their experience, lessons, and methodology. Allan will teach you pivotal advice to fast-track your career, better your skills, and reach your ultimate dream job. Check out the latest episodes on allanmckay.com.
All right, welcome to episode 87. So this episode is going to be really cool. I'm speaking with Arman Yahin from Main Road Post. I'm sure you're familiar with their work. They do some amazing visual effects work. They're based out in Russia and are doing some phenomenal feature film work that, especially if you're in visual effects, has definitely been one of those things that gets everyone's attention. Now, speaking with Arman, who's the CEO of Main Road Post, it was really interesting to get an insight into the company, the mindsets, the way that they work. And I personally nerded out a lot. I got a lot from this episode. It was really inspiring getting to hear all about how Arman has implemented Scrum, which is a really unique way of working that especially a lot of Silicon Valley companies are tending to incorporate into their workflow, but it's a team-based workflow that I find to be really interesting. I've got a lot of books on this, actually. I'll definitely try to link to in the show notes. But seeing it being applied to a visual effects setting, I think it's been really interesting, as well as just the fact that Arman has been willing to put in the dedication to make it work. Whereas a lot of other visual effects studios, typically I see them try to just throw more artists or more hours at a project when something needs to get done, rather than looking at unique ways of being able to approach it, as well as, again, putting in the time to let it work organically, and the things that do work and the things that don't work. So I've found this to be really inspiring. I found it to be really fascinating, as well as just seeing the amount of amazing work that Main Road Post has been able to create for all their feature films, the amazing shot counts that they're able to turn around in a very small amount of time with a pretty core team of people. I think it's also really inspiring too that not everyone needs to be in Vancouver or LA to do quality feature film work. And I think this is a great staple for what the rest of the world can do. And I really do hope that Russia gets to get more of this sort of work and hopefully branch more into mainstream visual effects feature films as well. Now, before we dive into this episode, I quickly want to mention that this is the last week that you'll be able to register for the Effects TD mentorship, which is a 1-year mentorship that I'll be mentoring closely with all of the students who are attending. I'm going to be spending an entire year doing live reviews, as well as creating a lot of really high-end visual effects content and getting to know everyone in the mentorship. So this has definitely been a massive game changer for everyone who's participated in the past. And this is the first time in the last year and a half that I've opened up doors for people to be able to register and be a part of the new Effects TD mentorship. So if you want to be a part of this, go to allanmckay.com/fireball, and this will be your chance to sign up and participate in the mentorship. And I'm really excited to get to know everyone. We close doors to the registration on Friday at midnight, and we'll be starting very shortly after that. So it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited about this. For me, this is definitely the number one thing that I get excited about. It's definitely just been so amazing and inspiring to see so many people change their lives, their careers, and really get that major growth. There's been so many people who came in at the beginning and later just kind of seeing where they're at. It's just been phenomenal. So if you want to check it out, allanmckay.com/fireball. Now, if you want to check out the show notes, go to allanmckay.com/87. So that being said, let's dive into this episode with the CEO of Main Road Post, Arman Yahin. First, I'll say thanks again for doing this. And do you want to give a quick introduction to who you are and who Main Road Post is?
We are now a 60 people company. It's relatively big in Russia. I think we are one of the biggest for the visual effects. And I know it's not big in terms of like Hollywood, big visual effects houses. But for Russia, it's a big number. We started 10 years ago. We were 6 people when we started, and we are oriented on the visual effects for the movies. We for many years we're not working in commercial. We're working only in movies and maybe in TV series. And 2 times we worked on the cinematics for the video games.
That's cool. That's really awesome.
First of all, I must say it's a great honor for me to talk with you, because we here in our company we know you, and some few years ago I read your 2 great articles about the productivity.
Oh, that's so cool.
And we are translated it in Russian for our employees, for our guys.
That's so awesome.
Yes.
Like, that means a lot, because it's interesting that those articles, when I wrote them, I didn't realize how much of an impact they would have. Like a lot of studio owners kind of took that to heart and applied that to their studios. So I mean, that's really cool. And I think that 60 people is a good intimate number. I mean, you're right. There are some studios that I've worked for that are 1,000, 2,000 people. And sometimes that can be a good thing if you have like the right management structure there to maintain it. But a lot of times I feel, once you go beyond 100, 150 people, the size of the studio, like the vibe, like the feeling of the place definitely changes. So, I think like 60 is always like a pretty solid number to keep pretty close and personable with your team. So I think that's really cool. And how did you guys initially... Sorry, go ahead.
I think, sorry. I think we will expand. We hope to expand till the end of the year, maybe to 100 and or 120 people. It will depend.
Cool.
Till the end of the year, because we have a lot of work now.
Yeah, it seems like I've been watching you guys for a long time, and yeah, it's amazing just to kind of see the growth of your company. Like, you're doing really impressive work, and it seems like every project that comes out, it's breaking new ground. So
thank you.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that it is expanding very quickly now. How did you guys initially get started?
Company started, we worked in another company. The core team of the main road post, the starting team of the main post worked in another company, and we were like a department, a CG department in a post-production company. And there is some difficult times in that company, and the CG department was some sort of deleted.
Yep.
And we've moved under the helm of one new movie company. It was 11 years ago, almost 11 years ago. And I think 7 years ago we moved to the independence. Yeah, and it was the project called August 8th, and the partner in our company, and he is a director and producer of that project, August 8th. Janik Faiziyev started this big movie. Cool. And there was a project that pushed us to grow.
Cool.
And in that time we grow to the 35 people at that moment.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really awesome. And like, I'm just curious, like, what's Russia's industry like right now? Like, movie industry, commercial industry. Obviously big country, but I'd imagine the industry is still maturing. But what's it like over there?
There is not so many movies with a lot of visual effects. And for I think till the past year, we worked as a company who made like some sort of one big movie in the year, like Stalingrad, and 2 smaller projects like some TV series. And the last year there were some changes. I don't know why. Maybe because we have in Russia the cinema fund.
What's
It's
that?
it's a government helping to the
Right.
movie
Okay.
business.
Yep.
Yes, it's like investing. They have partial investment in the movie business, and it working for I don't know for how many years? Not so many.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last year there were the changes because previous our previous work was almost like about the World War II, and like war movies.
Yep.
And last year, there is many movies like fantasy movies and new sci-fi movies.
That's cool.
Maybe the producers decided to move there because the sci-fi movies, the fantasy movies, is always expensive.
Yeah.
Because of the visual effects, because of costumes, because of makeup and everything. And maybe they decided that there is a time to move the Russian cinema to this area.
Mm-hmm.
And last year we worked on the 4 big movies.
Cool. That's great.
Yes, and it was huge challenge for us. And we started to work with like a main vendor and as a hub. We started working not only with our people in our team, and we started working with the different smaller companies.
Cool.
And if previous years we have in a credit block some sort of 60 people, 90 people. Last year we in the credit block in Russian in our movies was 200 people, and attraction was 255 people.
Cool. That's really great. I mean, it's great too that you're able to kind of become the lifeline for a lot of other smaller studios there and give them a chance to work on bigger films by, outsourcing and being the hub for everyone. So I think that's really great in terms of positioning your company as the big vendor that is able to bring in these movies that other studios in Russia would perhaps not have a chance to work on yet, and have them have the opportunity to actually work on those sorts of films. So I think that's really great.
I think like that too, but it's very hard because the lot of guys who work with us, they don't have a good experience, in this. They don't know, the quality, the quality needed for these movies.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of painful painful work.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. Australia, let's say 15 years ago, was the same, like where a lot of us would come from commercials, but then you get into feature film and there's a new level of quality, where everything needs to be efficiently made. It needs to hit a certain level of quality, and yeah, there's a lot, a bigger bar to cross than you would typically do with a TV commercial. And I feel like with any industry that's maturing, there's always going to be that hurdle where people go from working in commercials, which is 2 weeks, 6 weeks turnaround on a project, to doing feature film quality work for Warner Brothers or Paramount, to a whole new level of quality, and being able to manage bigger teams, bigger shots, sequences. It's definitely a lot of growth that happens when those big projects do land on your lap.
Yes, you're right.
I'm just curious, like, while you're talking about that, like, having 4 feature films rather than, let's say, 1 per year, how do you handle the growth when it happens so quickly?
It was like maybe hard this. It was like maybe a couple of years ago. Maybe I forgot. Maybe 3 years ago. But I think it's a couple when the Russian ruble was fallen.
Yep.
And for us, that's because we buying the software, we buying the hardware. It's very tricky because everything became more expensive, much more expensive, 2.5 times for us. like buying the software and
Yeah, it must
the
be
main
harder to compete when things
yeah
are
yeah
twice the cost.
yeah the maintenance for the software, the hardware, because the hardware it's from Europe,
Mm.
and the budgets, the budgets became smaller on the movies because there are more movies with the visual effects,
Yeah.
and I think and the budgets became smaller. It's if we try to compare with the Hollywood budgets, it's like it's a tiny budget.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's very tiny budgets. So it was the moment that we need to decide: do we cut our expenses and became smaller company that we had on that moment, or we need to change. We need to change. We need to diversify our projects, because it's always a problem when you're working on the one project.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's the same everywhere. But in Russia, when you have a big projects, it's always have big money problems. Because the producers are risking their businesses on the big project. They're risking with everything, and the expenses growing on the shooting.
Yeah.
It's and we always, it's a hard in the hard situation. We understand it. I'm not blaming the producers because I understand their problems. But for us, it's always a problem because on the big projects, they have, some gaps in the paying.
Yeah, the
Paying
payments.
schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we decided to try it was like the crazy idea. We need to change. We need to try to work with a lot of outside companies, smaller companies, and we change everything inside our company because we started to grow. And when we became like 50 people, it started, we had the big communication problem inside our companies because
You got to manage more resources, like internally and externally.
Yes, and we have departments, and the departments don't have a good communication between them. So at that time we decided to, in the IT industry, they have, maybe you heard about it, the Scrum, the Agile.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
I've got 3 books on Scrum sitting right in front of me right now.
yeah. So we decided to move on Scrum in our company. We decided to get rid of the departments. We decided to not to move with the like narrow specialists.
Yeah. You want to get more specialized people. So are you talking about more rather than getting generalists who are
Yes.
you want to get more specialists?
No. We don't want to.
You don't want specialists.
Yeah.
Right.
And we started to think about it's a good term called T-shaped people.
Okay.
It's very interesting term. It's like word T, the letter T.
Yeah,
and
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. The vertical bar, it's a deep expertise, and the horizontal bar, it's like some knowledge about something else. It's not deep, but the communication knowledge and some areas that not so deep that you have, but not only modeling, and the artist can the texture, the shading, lighting, some sort of generalists.
Yep.
And we get rid of the names, like it's a modeling artist, it's a FX artist. No, just artist. And it was interesting experience, and we're making it. It's a year now. It's 1 year that we started to transform our company, and we split the team on the smaller teams. Cool. It's some sort of, 5 people in a team, and average 5 people. It could be 3 people, or it could be 7 people.
So how do you find a team? Like if everyone's a generalist, typically is a team devised by a sequence of shots, or how do you build a team?
the Scrum says, the book
Yeah.
says
Okay, so you're
that
following Scrum. Yeah. Okay.
yes, yeah, we're following Scrum. The book says that the team must organize by itself, and we have few teams now that is the great teams, and it's not like everybody knows everything, but the team must be cross-functional, and the team must be able to finish the task. That average task, it's a sequence.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sequence, and team decides who in the team will do the work, will do the different types of the work, and they're always changing. There is no one that doing only FX in the scene, because sometimes they try to, maybe some FX artist could animate something, and the compositing artist could paint the texture. And it's an interesting experience, because not everybody, because we have a lot of problems with the people who don't want to move to the Scrum, but someone left our company, but not so many. Maybe 3 people. I don't know.
So there's so many things I want to comment on, but I figured I'd wait till the end. But in regards to people leaving, so was it specifically to do with, like, they felt there was a big change just from the way things were organized with Scrum? So they felt like it was very different to how they wanted to work? Was that like the key reason behind it, you feel?
Yes, it's very different, because in our company, the core software is Houdini. Mm-hmm. And the Houdini, it's some sort of Lego for the visual effects. So the Houdini artists, they almost always like generalists. So for the experienced Houdini artist, the Scrum, it's not so something unusual, because Scrum, it's a good principle how to work in a team.
Yeah,
it's rules how to work in a team. It's not like technical rules, It's psychological rules. It's social rules. So it's very interesting. And some people don't want to work like that, because in the Scrum, the responsibility not only on the supervisors, and in the Scrum, the responsibility goes to the team, to every member of the team. So it's not, it's not comfortable for everybody.
Yeah, you're right, because I feel like some people, they want to be led. Not everyone wants to be a leader. Not everyone wants to move up. That most people, I think Da Vinci had his theory on it all, but most people are happy, being where they are in the hierarchy. And so when you give everyone the chance to think independently and make decisions, some people don't want that. They want to just be told, go make cool effects or go make an amazing animation, and go do that, rather than having to deal with the management, the organization, all the things that you're kind of giving everyone the independence to do.
And it's not only the management, because I think we give people the right to decide how to work and how to make something, how to make cool effects, because in the Scrum, the team decides how to make it. And it's not only about the management, because the Scrum have rules that they cover all management, and they are simple. The Scrum is very simple, but it's hard to some people, because the Scrum based on the communication, and the Scrum based on the empathy.
Yeah, exactly.
And the empathy, as I know, empathy is a huge problem in the visual effects industry.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just thinking about what they want, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, I'd love to touch on that stuff later on too. But yeah, I think it is really important, because it's a two-way street. I think that artists need to, and touching on like what we talked about earlier just for a second, but like the articles I put out a long time ago, they were a two-way street in terms of, management needs to be able to utilize people more effectively with empathy, as you mentioned, but at the same time, like, artists need to be responsible and and respect that they're there to do a job as well. And it's definitely a two-way street. And what I mentioned before about like with Scrum and management, what I mean more is more that artists, managing themselves in terms of independent thought and having to organize themselves and be reactive to what's going on around them, so communicating with other people. So it's more self-management, I guess, is what I'm referring to. But
Yes.
some people don't
Yeah.
want that. Some people kind of
Yeah.
want to just do their work and not have to think about like, how can I work more efficiently, or how can I do a better job. It's it's interesting because the fact that you did have a few people leave, it's kind of natural selection. It kind of shows that certain people are not perhaps like they're not a good fit for the team, and in a way that's a good thing because they can go off and they can pursue what they're after. But at the same time, it means that the team that you have, they're all the people that are able to communicate and self-organize with each other. So that's great.
Yes, it's not, it's not bad that they
No,
people left, because they have the right to
absolutely. It's
work
like saying,
as
do
they
you
want.
like a Porsche or Ferrari? And
Yes,
all the
yes,
people go for the Porsche, great, and the two Ferrari people can do their thing. And it's just people going on their own path.
yes, and there are people, because everybody in the visual effects, they dreaming about to work in a bigger companies, in London, in the US, now in Canada, like or Weta Digital New Zealand. So a lot of people in Russia, they dreaming to work outside the Russia.
Yeah.
So they try to build their portfolio, of the special work that they want. But the Scrum, it's not like you deciding just I want to do just this. In Scrum, you need to decide what the project needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why for somebody it's not that's why somebody not fit in the Scrum.
I think it's really amazing because going back to a few things you said, one thing that I found with a lot of smaller developing industries, so again, me coming from Australia back in like the 1990s, we had, everyone would be a generalist. We didn't have specialists. And coming to America, everyone here was a specialist. And it was interesting from a management point of view as I grew as an artist to kind of see, what is better, being a generalist or being a specialist, like where, which is better to focus on. And I always feel that in the very beginning, hands down, you need to start as a generalist before you specialize, because that way you have a full understanding of how everything works around you. And I feel that after a while, you go from being a generalist to being a specialist, but the more you go up, the more you kind of loop back to being a generalist again. And that's usually because, let's say, you evolve to being a CG supervisor or in a different role where you need to know everything again. So even though you might kind of get your master's degree in a way in the industry in one area, you kind of end up branching back out again to being, having your hand in everything again. So I think that, it's important to definitely understand everything and be able to do it, even if, for a while you do specialize. But ultimately, the people who have a full understanding of everyone's job, it gives you a lot more strength to be able to do your job a lot better.
Yes, you're totally right. And maybe somebody will not agree with me, but I think the structure of the big companies, it's not effective.
Yeah,
because
it's different for sure.
Yes, it's not effective because everything changes a lot, and the Scrum and the generalists in the Scrum, they more flexible because the project's always different, and you need to be flexible. And when you work, as a specialist in a big company, the companies are not flexible.
Yeah.
That's why there is a lot of wasting money. A lot of wasting money for something that not you don't need. And we have these problems because we have something, that some artist making something, and the artist want to make it great, but he don't see the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
So he is over engineering or over making, I don't know, overloading something.
fixating on one little thing when they're not looking at
Yes,
like, how important is this one thing when we
yes,
got 200 other shots to get through.
yes, yes. So I think it's more, like it's more organic way to work.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
Okay,
I think it's great. Sorry, go ahead.
I can speak about the hours.
Yeah,
I think,
it's like there's definitely a lot of stuff I want to talk about, but like yeah, I think it's amazing that you as a business owner, you being able to look at the state of where things are headed and realize that you need to make big change. A lot of people usually will be like, look, this is what we're doing, and it's better to play it safe than to reevaluate where you're at and say, okay, well, how do we change for the better for the long term? And I think that being able to have that growth and be able to look at being able to adapt your company, your way of doing things to survive and grow, whereas a lot of other people might kind of just say, okay, well, we need going back to the article, which the overtime versus productivity, like maybe the way that we need to get more jobs in, more work done is just we'll make everyone work twice as hard or whatever, instead of looking at, okay, well, why don't we change the way that we evaluate and run? Why doesn't everyone become a generalist, for instance, and that way we can handle more, everyone can be able to work together as a team a lot more efficiently, rather than in a way every artist being their own department, being effects artist, lighter, modeler. Instead, a modeler can light a shot. A lighting artist might be able to do some effects. People can composite their own shots to an extent. Having that synergy, that teamwork is really important. So I think it's just pretty amazing that you're able to have the foresight to see how to change the company for the long term for the better. I think it's really impressive.
Thank you, thank you. I'm not only the businessman, because I started as a compositing artist,
Yeah.
and I'm educated for the directing, and I made some CG work for many years for as an artist.
Yeah, no, it's pretty clear that you
Yeah,
definitely you understand how the production works, and and I think
yeah,
that's important too. Is that if you come from whatever you're managing, if you come from those roots, like that background, then you have a full understanding of what's going on. And I think that as a manager, whether it is managing the business or managing a team, the more that you understand what people are doing, the more you get involved, rather than just saying, okay, is everything good? Okay, great. You can actually look at how people are working and see how to work better, or how to change things up for things to work more efficiently.
yes, yes.
It's so cool. And just like moving forward for a little bit, but like I'm just curious for artists on your team. I mean, you kind of already answered this a little bit, but let's say for people wanting to apply and go into the company, like typically, what are the things that you look for in most of the people you hire?
Now it's funny that you ask it, and it's a good question, because now the most important vacancy that we have, it's the Houdini artists.
Hmm.
And because before we tried to hire the modelers, the animators, the compositing artists, and etc., etc. But now we have a lot of people outside the company that can do this work. We have a bunch of great modelers and texture artists that understand our pipeline now, the compositing artists, and now we try to find the Houdini artists. And it's not easy in Russia.
Yeah.
Because I think there is no more Houdini artist in Russia.
There's
It's
like one
funny.
hiding under a rock somewhere, but you'll find them.
Yeah. We try to find from the different cities and towns, and now we try to find the experienced Houdini artist, and we try to find the people who can work in a Scrum.
Hmm.
It's like the good communication skills and the nice people. It's very important to be nice, because we're spending a lot of time in the work,
Yeah.
and we want to work with the nice people, and the Scrum couldn't work without this.
Yeah.
Because it's a teamwork, and the partnership, and the Scrum, and some sort of back to roots, like the small company.
Hmm.
It's some sort of small studios inside a bigger studio.
Yeah.
It's
No, I think it's so critical because yeah, it's funny. I've interviewed a lot of studios recently who've talked about how important it is to make sure like people when you hire them are they don't have their ego. They aren't difficult to work with because yeah, you're not going to be able to work when someone's too focused on themselves rather than on the team and the goal of getting the project done. Yeah,
yes,
it just derails everything.
yes. So these people that we want, that we try to find.
So how do you find that? Like how can you tell that someone isn't arrogant or has an ego or is difficult when you're initially going through the hiring process?
I work with a big amount of people, so I
Hmm.
am understanding a little. Understand how the guy who's sitting in front of me will behave, and I try. I'm not only one on the job interview. I'm asking our team members, our leads, to be the part of the job interview. So we talking with somebody, and then we speak with each other and try to understand: is he good? Is he nice? Is he can communicate well? Is he a good artist? And so it's a hard process.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy to understand how somebody will work and how somebody will behave. But it's always like very important process, and
Yeah.
there is no there is no shortcuts. There is no the clear understanding of some new employees. So we're working with them for some time. We try to understand. We try to ask the people who work with them for the first time.
Hmm.
So it's like complex process.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because I know with Weta, for instance, they rely heavily on references. One of my friends, or he's passed away now, Richard Barker. He's a producer for Lord of the Rings and worked very closely with Weta. He would always say that it was a lot cheaper to rather than fly someone over, get their visa, get them set up in a home, train them up on your pipeline, and then get them into your company, and then find out that they're difficult to work with and they're very arrogant. It's a lot easier to pick up the phone and call someone who's worked with them and say, what do you think of this person? And I think that it's so true in terms of all you need to do is ask other people who know that person, like, are they easy to get along with, like, what was your experience? And obviously we can't do this in VFX, but like Google, for instance, they're constantly testing and like split testing their hiring process, trying to figure out like what works. And I think the record right now was 24 interviews once for one job, where they kept interviewing the same person. Obviously, we can't do that in VFX. Usually, you call someone up panicking. You're like, "We need the shot done next week. Can you come in?" And
Yeah.
but going back to what you said, I mean, I think that for me, it's always been one of those things. Like, can you have a beer with the person at the end of the day? Like, is this
Yes.
someone that if it's 3 a.m, are you willing to want to help them and them help you and do whatever it takes to get a job done and have a fun time while you're going through it, rather than this painful process where everyone is a wall that doesn't communicate. So yeah, it's so critical to have like the right people in your environment.
Yes.
So talking about Wanted, how did that movie come to be? Was it did you guys have a relationship with I want to screw this up, Bekmambetov or the VFX soup, or like how did that come to be?
It was a very big project for the Russia, and Timur. He's very visionary. He's very fearless. He's very
Hmm.
fearless, and he decided to move all VFX work to the Russia, and it was a big adventure.
Yeah.
Because his company, the Basilevs, and they hired almost every company in Russia and few companies in Ukraine, and I don't know, maybe someone in a different places. And it was a great experience for us because we were small at the moment. I think it was 15 people, and it was the first Hollywood project. But it wasn't the first American project for us, because we previously worked on the cinematics for the Time Shift for the Vivendi Universal.
Right.
It's the video game made by a company called Saber Interactive, and the publisher was the Vivendi Universal, and they have the American director for the cinematics, and it was a great experience for us that and when we start working on the Wanted, we understand the principles of working of the big companies, of big American companies. And the first supervisor on the Wanted was John Farhat, and then on the post-production, he taking some eel, some huge eel, and the Stefan Funkmeyer came on board, and for us it was a very it was very important moment, and it was very cool experience to work with he's the star in the visual effects. And it was great. It was interesting, and we've made and in this movie maybe 100 shots.
Wow!
And if you remember the movie, it was the shot on the train, training on the train.
Training on the train. Yeah.
Training on the train. So it was 4 sequences, and the sequences was done by us. It was very interesting process.
That's great.
So the project came to us because we on that moment we were some sort of like the movie industry in Russia knows us at that moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that especially at the time, it would have put you guys on the map. Obviously you would have already had that presence, but yeah, I think it's something about having a Hollywood film. It's a badge of honor. You know what I mean? It's like, not an honor, but it's one of those pieces that you're able to put on your chest and say, okay, now I've done a Hollywood film. Next level.
It really was next level. It really was next level because it was different. Different type of quality that they ask, and it was great for us because we learned a bunch of principles how to work.
That's cool. And I just touching base on it for a second, but like when you talk about like a bunch of principles, like what were like the big realizations, like going from the projects you were doing to doing like a feature film like this? How much growth kind of happened during that time?
The main thing that I learned, I personally, because when you're working in Russia and you always watching the big movies, big Hollywood blockbusters, and you're trying to find how the industrial light and magic works. So it was, for me, it was a lot of fantasies. Like I thought that there is some technical tricks how to manage work, or some super cool software that making the management easier. But the main lesson that I've learned from the Stefan Funkmeyer, that he works a lot, and there is no special software. It's just the email and the Photoshop, and he worked a lot. And the main lesson for me was that there is no magic. It's just hard working, and no special software. And just iterations for making the great result, and that's it.
It's definitely brute force. It's as much as we want to think that there's like a magic button that does everything for us, it's with anything in life and work, it's I think that no matter what you're trying to do, whether you're an artist trying to build a career, or whether you're trying to cook something, or whether you're trying to make a movie, it's basically you gotta have to get your hands dirty and do the hard work.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's so cool. Sorry, go ahead.
So that was the main lesson.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's maybe some technical stuff, like they pushed us to make the better keying in the compositing, and not to touch like the main actor's face, not to change color and that stuff, And we on that project we have grown as the specialists.
Gotcha.
Because yes, they pushed us to the new level.
So how many people were you at the time of that production?
On the Wanted, I don't know, maybe some 12 or 15.
Wow, so pretty tight.
Yeah.
That's cool. And so when Stalingrad came around, I guess, like how big a scale was that film when it landed on your lap? Did you get the initial storyboards or the script and be like, oh shit, this is going to be a lot of work? Or, how did, what were your first thoughts when that landed?
The Stalingrad with what the project that helmed by the director Fyodor Bondarchuk, and we worked with him on his previous project called Inhabited Island. It was very big sci-fi Russian movie, and we were not the main vendor on that movie. We've made a few sequences. And after this project, the producers chose us to the Stalingrad, the main vendor, and we made the all complex shots on this. And we started with the script. We started on the early development of the movie, and I think it was a long process of development because they have a lot of draft of the scripts. It was a long process before the project started, because the project greenlit. And we've worked on the first version of the script. We made some, concept art and something, and we waited for a long time, maybe a couple of years.
Wow.
Before the project started. And then when the project started, we worked closely with the director, with the producers, with the DOP, and it was a big step for us because it's the first project in Russia that was shot in stereo and in native stereo on the stereo rigs. And for us, it was very complex because it's not only the stereo was the challenge for us, and that because the stereo movies shot on stereo, they have a longer shots because when you're watching the stereo, it's very hard to the eyes, and the directors try to make the longer shots to for the audience to be comfortable to watch it.
Yeah, quick cuts make you kind of disorientated.
Yes, in stereo it's a big problem. Quick cuts is a big problem. So for us, it means that we need more quality work on the assets, more quality work on the simulations, and in the stereo when you're working on the native stereo, when you're shooting, some explosions on the green screen and the smokes, it's not working because when you're putting in the stereo, it's like a plate.
Yeah, you've no depth.
Yes, it's not depth. So we started to work on the R&D for the fire, for the explosions, for the huge simulations for this movie. And it was very challenging. It was very interesting, and we were happy at that moment because it was a new level for us, for everything.
Yeah, it looks great.
And in stereo, the full CG shots, it's not something that more difficult to became in the stereo. The full CG shots, there is. Sorry, I try to try to find the main difference. It's not in the full CG shots. The main difference in the compositing and the cleanup work.
Right.
Because you must be more accurate because you're compositing two eyes. You're compositing two. The one shot have two eyes.
And you need to find the right width for each shot.
Yes. So you must be more accurate. So there is a lot of pixel fucking.
Were there any specific tools you used for stereo? Like, what were the ones you mainly relied on?
No, it's for compositing we use Nuke, and no specific software.
Yeah.
We work we inside Nuke. We have Ocula.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was curious about because we went through the same thing with let's say Flight and a few other films where just trying to get just with stereo trying to find the right tools that would give us really good results, and Ocula is really effective. Yeah,
and that time in Russia there is no company who can convert a big movie
So you would have to transfer it to a outside of Russia to get any.
No, and that's why the producers decided to not to convert everything but shoot everything in stereo.
Cool.
It was a native stereo, and we make a lot of stereo work, and it wasn't a conversion to the stereo.
What's your opinion? Actually, what is your opinion about that now? Because like I've always felt shooting at stereo makes more sense because that way you have you're getting proper depth. But I don't know, like in talking to a few VFX supervisors recently about, let's say, The Walk and a few other like fairly heavy stereo films, like a lot of people are now starting to lean towards doing stereo conversion just because you get way more control, shot by shot. So I don't know, like, what's your opinion now? Have you done many more stereo films since then?
No, we need more.
I hate stereo, by the way.
And, after the Stalingrad, the another stereo film that we worked, it was The Attraction, another movie of this director, of the Fyodor Bondarchuk. And Attraction was converted. And until The Attraction, I thought that the native stereo is better to shoot in stereo, but The Attraction was very great converted, and it was look very, very comfortable.
Right.
And for us, it was easier to work because we've made in stereo only the full CG shots.
Cool.
And we provide the conversion company a lot of masks that we have in compositing. And for some shots, we render the depth for them. And for me, The Attraction have a great stereo. It was converted, but it's very cool. And a few days ago, I watched the Guardians of the Galaxy second part in the IMAX, and I love the movie. I think it's one of the greatest movies.
Cool.
But the conversion was, was very painful for us, for the eyes.
Yeah.
It's very deep, and it's not comfortable. It look, in some shot it looked some sort of creepy. I don't know why. It was very, painful process to watch it.
It's definitely difficult to because like it's one thing to critique work to see if it looks right, like let's say if it looks real when you visually look at it, but with stereo it's something that you can't really see, you can only feel. And so trying to do it correctly, if something's wrong, it's hard to tell exactly what or how to fix it necessarily. So it's tricky for sure.
No, I don't know. Maybe it's that they decide to make it was a lot of shots that something go to the audience. It's on the negative space.
Yeah,
but and maybe that is painful for eyes and a big depth. I love the movie. It's great, and it was great looking, and amazing, the visual effects and the story and everything was great. But the conversion was very, my eyes are tired.
I remember I saw Avatar. I was watching that, and James Cameron gave us like an advanced reel of it, so I ended up watching that at the Skywalker Ranch, and that was really cool. But I was sitting like front row to Avatar, in like an early cut of it, and it's the stereo. Like I don't know, like everyone the next day had a headache walking around ILM. It was it's kind of like the hangover from watching stereo so close. Yeah,
but the Avatar is on the positive space in the inside the screen.
Yeah,
it's not outside, so it's comfortable to watch. Avatar is very comfortable to watch.
Maybe you guys could look into doing stereo conversion as a separate company later, like Main Road Stereo.
No, it wasn't done by our company.
No, I realize that. I'm just saying that if there is
I don't want, I don't want.
Yeah, that's one way to tear your hair out, I guess. But that's cool. And the project was really amazing. Like, is there any, like Stalingrad, is there any specific sequences or shots that you're particularly proud of, or felt that were the biggest technical achievement?
I think we're proud of everything on the Stalingrad, because it wasn't there wasn't some easy shots. We have a big sequence with the burning people, burning soldiers, and a lot of explosions, and a lot of the set extension work, and every shot was very tricky, and I think we're proud of everything. And it was the first time for us that we made the show reel so complex after we finished the movie.
You should though. Like when you put that much work into something, you want to show it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and and the making the show reel was the tricky part itself, because we made it for the 2.5 months for the half of the company. And on that moment, I thought that it will be last time, and the first time and last time that we make the show reel like this. But when we put it on the internet, it had a huge success.
Yeah, I think it's really it's so worth putting in the time to correctly show off like what you've done, because as you are well aware, marketing and having that exposure is so critical to growth in a company. It's what people talk about, and even just for the artists, getting to be familiar with everyone in the CG industry, getting to see the work you're doing too, it makes them really passionate and stand behind you, as well as obviously going after the agencies and having the right VFX soups reach out to you, but also all the talent who now wants to work for your company as well. So I think it affects everyone, not just the agencies you might reach out for, but like everyone. So yeah, I think it's so critical, and it looked amazing.
Thank you. We after the Stalingrad show reel was internet, we have a lot of emails from different artists. I think from every big company, every big visual effects company.
Yeah, what was the reception like when once you finished Stalingrad and once you unleashed all your work out there into the world and the internet? Like, how well was it received?
It was received very warmly, and but we thought that we will have a lot of like Hollywood work, something, but it wasn't. But for after the Stalingrad, we have a lot of talk for few years with the Chinese producers.
Right.
And now we're working on some Chinese movies.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's kind of interesting how it all works. Like, even though you can do amazing work, there's so much relationship building and time that goes into anything to kind of break out of that bubble. And that's the big thing is Hollywood. For the longest time, if you were not in LA, then you're pretty much dead to everyone in Hollywood. And it's kind of interesting now. It's slowly starting to change, but it's still a very slow process. And that's why, like, let's say with the Chinese industry down there, like Chinese cinema is a whole new playing field that not only is it open to the entire world, but everyone in Hollywood is trying to get into it as well. So it's kind of interesting having like a brand new Hollywood that's globally accessible.
But I talked with this couple of producers, the Hollywood visual effects producers, and they said the main reason it's not that we're not in LA. The main reason the tax subsidies.
Yeah. But you mentioned that Russia is starting to introduce that a little bit now, or?
No, the Russia don't have tax subsidies. The Russia have some subsidies for the inner projects.
Right. Okay. To encourage growth of, let's say, Russian cinema.
Yes, for the Russian cinema, and there is no tax subsidies for the outside for the outside projects. And the producer said that the main reason is the tax subsidies, and they finding the states that provide the tax subsidies: the Canada, the LA, or London, England, and Australia, New Zealand.
Yeah, Australia's done it on and off over the years. So like we had Star Wars, Matrix, a lot of films like that shot out there. And what's interesting is, and it's exactly what people talk about with Canada, like whenever Australia stopped, like whenever we said, okay, we're not going to do subsidies anymore, all the work dried up instantly. And
yes.
Yeah. So, and that's the sad thing is, like, as soon as Canada or anyone else does it, it's going to create a lot of destabilization. So it's tricky. Australia does the same thing though. We'll encourage the creation of like a lot of Australian films. So there's a lot of funding there as well to encourage movies and other things that are Australian made. We have the AFTC, I think it is, the Australian Film and Television Commission. And essentially they'll help fund a lot of stuff to be made that's Australian as well. Because I think it's so important to not just pump out Hollywood movies, but to actually create movies that are made from your, your industry, but also your background. And yeah, I think it's so important to encourage that rather than just making American movies everywhere in the world.
And I think subsidies is distorting the business.
Yeah, just talking about Stalingrad for a couple more seconds. The project, like, how many people at that point were on the team? Like, you went from 12 to 18 people a few years before that, but then Stalingrad, like, how many people were you at that point?
We didn't grow for the Stalingrad. The Stalingrad was a long project for us because it have a long editing process, and the shooting process was split on two parts, and inside these parts was few months. So the whole period was 2 years of working, because we started to make R&D when the principal shooting starts.
Mm-hmm.
And the first part of the shooting, it was a big scene with the burning soldiers.
Right.
It was very huge. And when they finished the shooting, it was, I don't know, a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And they edited this part. We started to work on it. And then when the second part was shot, and they have a long editing process for this movie. And we were 30 people team.
Wow.
On the Stalingrad, yes. And inside the Stalingrad, we have some pause on this project. Inside we've made few scenes for the movie called Metro. Mm-hmm. We wasn't the main vendor for it. We just made a few scenes, and it was 30 people. It was 30 people for the company at that moment.
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty impressive to be able to put like that scope of work in with such a small amount of team. But do you think that, like, was that around the time that you had implemented Scrum and started to look at artists being able to handle a lot more of their workload rather than being specialized?
No, Scrum started the last year.
Okay.
Yes, the Stalingrad was made 4 years ago.
So at the time, did you still have like pretty specialized categories like modelers, animators?
No, not at the moment, because there are a few people, 30 people, and as I said, the Houdini artists, they almost the generalists, mm-hmm. And but we have compositors and we have modelers, but it not so many people.
Cool, that's awesome. And what about Night Guards? Like, how long after Stalingrad was that?
Night Guards was made last year. And it was the project. In the middle of this project, we started to work on the Scrum, so it was very painful. It was it was two projects: in the parallel Night Guards and the Duelists, mm-hmm. And historical, not historical. It's like period action movie. And in the middle of these projects, we've changed the principles of working. We started Scrum, and it was very painful. And we started to work with the freelancers and the outside companies, the smaller companies. And the Night Guard was the first movie. And we worked for the Night Guard for the 3 months. It was very speedy project.
Wow. And I guess like for that movie, it was a lot more character-driven, live action and creature work integrated together. Like, is probably a bit different to the type of work you had been doing so far. Like, was there a lot of development time in trying to build a pipeline around that?
No, we always used to work on, to make the new things. Mm-hmm. It's not like we after the Stalingrad we're making only war movies, right. etc. etc. No, we used to change the way they work. We love to make new things. So for the Night Guards, it was more complex characters for us, but before we worked on the character animation, we made the August 8, and the August 8 had the characters, the CG creatures, and Night Guards we have more complex creatures, and the vampire and more complex, like in a more detailed creatures.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like something very new.
Absolutely. But I just mean in terms of, was there any new technology or research that you guys implemented to kind of, let's say, raise the bar in terms of the quality of photoreal CG humans and things like that you're doing? Like any new process or way that you approach things than you had done previously?
I don't. Maybe not. Maybe not, because before this we've tried to make research for the for the fur, for the fat simulation, for the muscles. We made some tests inside the company. There was not commercial tests. We made some characters and tried to find the new way of working. And the night guards, we just tried that research that we made before.
Right.
And we have some ideas, but it was for the new work for us. It was like the new a lot of animation work, because we was mainly the FX company. I mean, the explorers, the fire, the smoke, and not the creature animation. So the animation was the new part for us. It wasn't some new. Very new. I don't know how to say it in English, but the animation for us was like more complex.
Yeah, it's taking it to a new level of
new
quality.
level.
Yeah.
Yes, the new level of quality, and it wasn't so much time for this project. So we need to make the new level, but fast.
So it was 3 months turnaround, was it?
Yes, it was 3 months. There was some time for making the assets, but not so long.
That's crazy, though. You realize that, right?
Yes, and when they finished editing, we had only 3 months.
So how many shots total in 3 months?
800 shots on the movie.
So 3 months, 800 shots. And how many artists worked on that at that
3
point?
months, 3 months, and 800 shots, and the credits was like 184 people.
So, I mean, that alone is pretty amazing that, and I really like that because, again, I'm going to use the Hollywood as the, LA, San Fran, Vancouver, whatever, like that is the comparison. But like, I love hearing about studios elsewhere in the world where you're able to do really amazing things where most people get very comfortable, like, okay, we're going to do it. This is this many people. Here's the formula. We're going to go out and make a film. And then you guys are able to, with a big amount of people, but even then that has its own challenges. But 3 months to manage 184 people to knock out, how many shots was it again? 800?
800.
Yeah, like that's insane. So, and like I said, to manage that many people in 3 months, like that alone is a massive challenge because it's very hard to kind of keep things structured and track everything with such a tight turnaround like that. So I don't know. I'm just curious. Like, what was the experience like managing all those teams in such a small amount of time?
Yeah. It was that was the new part for us, because we never worked with this big amount of people before, and with the amount of outsourced companies.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of smaller companies, the small companies. And so it was very challenging. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And you also did a lot of really amazing CG environments in that. And obviously, even before that was Stalingrad and a lot of other projects, and recently as well. But for you, at the time, like what type of process did you have for creating a lot of the CG environments?
On the night guards, we didn't use some procedural work or something. It's just modeled environments and matte painting, and we've made a lot of renders, and we provide the outsourced companies with our renders, and they composite the many shots.
Awesome.
Yes, and we didn't use some procedural CT engine. We used it on attraction, but we didn't use on the night guards.
So talking about attraction, I guess like what were the big challenges before you started on that project? Like, initially looking at the script and everything, did you realize how big a project it was going to be?
Yes, because it's for us, it was, very, very challenging project because we have a alien character that we've never made before because it was one of the main characters in the movie. And it must be very detailed, and it will have a close-ups, and it must be very cool looking. and very cool animated character, because it's not like the creature on the background or in a few shots, because there was a lot of shots with this exosuit, the alien exosuit, and we started working with the creative group of the movie, and it is a director, Fedor Bondarchuk, that we made Stalingrad, with whom we made Stalingrad before, and the producer, and then the producers, it's the young guys. We've made with them a movie called Ghost before, and for the Fedor, they work with the Fedor for the first time as the producers. Because on the previous project before the attraction movie called Ghost, it's it's a family comedy and a buddy movie, and it's I think it's one of the greatest movies in our experience because it's very funny and very touching. And it's a story about the airplane constructor who is not a good man. He's rich but not good, and he dying in the beginning of the movie.
Right.
and he became ghost, and his company who making the plane, this new plane, and have a problems, and this company need to move the plane to the plane exhibition, and or the other company will buy this business. And so he tried, as a ghost, he tried to save his business, and he find the boy, and this boy is very he's like I will try find the word. He's outsider in the school,
right? Okay.
And very funny boy, and they have in this movie they building the friendship,
right?
And the Fedor was the main actor on this movie. He wasn't the producer or director, and the producers Mikhail Vrubil and Alexander Andrushenko. They were the producers of the Ghost, and they after this movie they started this attraction, and they were the authors of the idea of the movie, the producers of the Ghost, and the Fedor started as a producer of the attraction. And when we started develop the attraction, in some moment Fedor said that he want to direct it, and it was like turning point for this movie, because it started like very small movie. It started like little sci-fi movie. And when the Fedor became the director, and the Fedor like big movies, he's one of directors in Russia who loved and can do the big movies.
He's the Roland Emmerich of Russia.
Yeah, some sort of,
but good at directing.
And he loved the big scene. He loved the action scenes. And from this moment, the amount of visual effects shot was grown. And it was grown like, it's like a couple of times, maybe more. And but relatively, it's a movie like if you compare to the Hollywood budgets, this is a very small movie. It have $6.5 million budget.
Wow!
For the whole movie.
That's impressive, because I've worked on a few movies where like I worked with the Spierig brothers. They're doing Saw remake at the moment, but like we did Daybreakers for $20 million at the time, and just in general, it's even then that's a stretch. Like the directors themselves, they ended up doing 460 shots themselves in After Effects just because they ran out of money, and it's pretty amazing. And even then, that was in Australia, so like the money stretched further, but it's pretty impressive to be able to pull off a movie of your scale for what is like a third of that or something. So like it's really amazing.
And when we started to read the script and the work with the director and producers, we understood that it will be very challenging, and that there wasn't a lot of time for it, because when after the editing was finished, we have only 4.5 months. And we started working for, I don't know, the whole period of working on this movie. Maybe it was 1.5 year. It was like working on the script, finding the ideas, drawing the concept art, and making the previews, the animatics, and try to find how we will shoot something. But the main work for the visual effects was the 4.5 months.
Wow. And so when this was initially being shot, did you find previs in a lot of cases saved a lot of time trying to figure out how initially to shoot it all and where to cut corners, things like that?
Oh, yes. We started with the previs. We talked with the because one of the producer, the Alexander Andrushenko, and he was the editor of the movie. He's director himself, and he's a great editor. And we started working on action scenes with him, and we sharing the ideas how to build some scene and find the, as you said, shortcuts. And when we started to prepare the shooting with the production designer and with director, and it was an idea. If you remember our show reel, and when the jeep running through the moat, and the main idea was to go to the military polygon. Yes, and dig a big trench. But we have an idea, and we say to them that let's shoot in a blue screen stage, and everything else we will make by the CG.
Right.
The set, this garbage and everything, and after the jeep, the chase itself to make in a full CG, and it was very risky. But they say, okay, let's try. And I don't know, maybe it saved a lot of money on the shooting process.
Well, actually, talking about that for a minute, did you find, let's say, on a production like that they were more receptive to you coming in and having a say in things? That's one of the big things that usually works on Hollywood sets, is that visual effects people typically are more of a burden. They're they take up a lot of people's time, and it's not an important part of the process because obviously the budget when you're on set is the production budget. It's not the post budget. So usually visual effects people have to work around, tiptoe around everyone else doing their work. But did you find working on this, knowing the director and also just being in a, let's say the Russian cinema environment, they were more open to you having a say and having influence over the shoot?
Yes. It was a lot of trust in us.
That's great.
And yes, and they work with us as a partners. They trust us. They understand that the visual effects is a very important part of this movie, and they didn't. They saying that. Mm-hmm. They saying that they understand that the visual effects are a very important part. So they have a lot of trust in us, and we are very thankful for this, because it was very important. It was important, and the director, he's. I love to work with him because he's very visionary, and he understands what he wants, but he loved to delegate something.
Right.
And he was delegate a lot on us or on the editor who helped us to find the right rhythm of the scene, the shots and everything. So it was a lot
of trust.
Yes, we have a lot of trust. It was great to work because was very warm project, and was very funny projects. It was very joyful, but it was very stressful because there wasn't a lot of time because of the small budget and very tight deadlines. But they were very helpful for us. And when we finishing the movie, in the end, it was a lot of pressure, and we didn't fit in the deadlines, and they was very helpful. They never blame on us on the yell something. They tried to understood our problems, and it was great.
That's so cool. And yeah, I think that's pretty amazing. Like, when you have that relationship, and especially when they realize the importance of what you're doing. I'm just curious, like, do you, when you work on a project that only has like a $6 million budget, like, do you think there's any, ways that you found were really efficient for being able to keep the cost down and not blow out the budgets for a lot of the stuff that you're doing?
And the attraction was the project that we started Scrum on the previous two projects,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't good because it was work good, but it was a lot of problems
Yep.
because you need to start the Scrum from the scratch of the project. When you're starting
Yeah,
the project.
implementing halfway through sounds
Yes, yeah, it's
problematic.
very yes. It was a lot of technical problems on the previous project, and attraction we started with the Scrum, and it wasn't easy, but it was great because we have a couple of teams, small teams, Scrum teams, and attraction that in the middle on the on the hot period of post production, they worked almost without the supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're doing great. They're making a lot of great decisions. They have a lot of great ideas, and they found a lot of very efficient ideas how to make work easier and not make a lot of needless stuff. Not
Mm-hmm.
to make needless stuff.
Yep.
So it was very interesting, and the director was open to ideas, and the teams making the decision. They're making not only technical decision, not only technical ideas, but the creative ideas. And the director and producer, they were very open to it. It was great. And I think the Scrum was worked well on this project.
That's really amazing. And I'm just curious, like from a technical standpoint, let's say one of the big sequences you had like an entire CG city. Like, what was the decision to go with like a full CG city rather than live action and doing replacements where you had to?
Because we understood that we need to the
Total freedom.
the total freedom, and we need to make the destruction of a lot of buildings, and there is not so easy to shoot this, and we understood that if we will shoot something, we need to make a lot of change in the shots,
Yep.
like paint out the real building and put the CG building and etc. etc.
Mhm.
So we tried we came with the idea to make the procedural city to the producers, and they say, okay, let's try. And we made the R&D for the one of our guys. He's a very talented Houdini artist. His name is Igor Haritonov, and he said, I tried to build the city engine for it in Houdini, and he made a lot of R&D for it. And other guys, we have the modeler and the other Houdini technical director, and they came with the idea to make in Maya some procedural buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And they found on the internet the blueprints of some buildings in this area. And yes, and we knew that we need to build the not as usual model, because when you broking something, we need to build the inside, everything inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very interesting R&D project of this team to make this city engine. And the guys found on the internet the traffic algorithm.
Really?
And they implemented it inside this engine. So we have a lot of moving cars and the buses, and they moving procedurally. It was animated procedurally. It was very interesting because they react on each other.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So it was an interesting project, and in our show reel, we showed the principles of how it worked.
Yeah, no, it was really impressive to see the amount of work and detail that went into it.
And then when we finished R&D for this, it was very fast to build a lot of shots.
So putting in the work up front to allow you then to be able to, putting it like, that's one thing I like about doing the more technical stuff, is that it might be a bit more work up front, building a proper pipeline, workflow, everything else. But in the long run, it means that you can knock things out much quicker. You can get changes out quicker.
Yes.
It's the bigger picture. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. And when they edited the movie, they said we need a couple of shots more. Like we need wide shot for this scene for this episode or for that episode, and we could very fast build the shots for the other shots with the set with the environment,
Hmm.
and we don't need to shoot it because to shoot it's the complex stuff. You need to hire the crew for
Yeah.
shoot. But we've made for the few days. I don't know, maybe 4 days. We've made a very complex shot with the buildings, with the running people, with the smokes, with the destruction, everything.
That's cool. That's so awesome. And I'm just curious, like, this is more in general with your whole studio, but how big are you guys on automation and, building a proper solid pipeline, scripting? Do you think it's important that artists have at least some technical knowledge in terms of being able to build a script or a tool, things like that?
We put a lot of effort in automation.
Hmm.
We the partner the partner in our company is our senior technical director, the Mikhail Lyosin.
Hmm.
We are longtime friends and partners because we worked we're friends maybe 25 years. I don't know. And we grow together in the school, and we work together in a different country, and then we moved to the Moscow, and so I think he's a technical genius,
Cool.
and he's our pipeline architect and the partner in a company. So he always very passionate about some R&D stuff. And on the attraction, we have some funny moment. He's very passionate about the planes,
Hmm.
and we've decided to build this full CG pilot because we understood that we could only shoot, the plane on the ground.
Right.
We couldn't shoot the very quality shots in the flying plane because it's a military plane.
Yeah.
We decided to make it full CG, and Mike he's very passionate about the planes, and he made a lot of work inside this, and we nobody see it because it's it's a badge on this pilot with his name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's some Easter egg.
Yeah, I was talking with Jeff Oken the other day. He's VFX supervisor for a lot of big films, and he was talking.
I heard
Sorry?
of him. He's very famous. I know.
Yeah, and he was saying how he sneaks like penguins into every movie, like Blood Diamond, The Last Samurai. Any movie he can, he'll put penguins in the background somewhere, which I thought was always kind of cute.
It's fun.
I was curious, like in terms of render bandwidth, like do you guys do cloud rendering, or do you like how big's your render farm for doing projects like this?
No, we don't have a big render farm inside our company, but on attraction we started to render on the cloud using the cloud rendering because there is a lot of renders and we don't have resources for it, and it's too expensive to
Yeah.
build a new render farm. So we try to find a way, and with the help of our friends, we find a very interesting decision.
Hmm.
And we used a very big supercell computer.
Cool.
Yes, and
And
we
what was
used the
your
cloud.
experience? Like,
Yeah.
did you find like it changed how you worked at all, or
Yes. Now we're using the cloud rendering.
yeah? And what platform typically did you rely on?
Uh, what do you mean?
Like, were you using Zinc, or specifically just using Amazon's EC3 setup, or like what typically did you like cloud services did you find were really useful?
It's a very technical question, and but no, we didn't use Think, and I think we just built the mirror of our pipeline
Hmm. Cool.
on the Linux.
Yeah. I think that the advantage of cloud is the fact that, as you mentioned, like you don't need to go and build a big farm. And that's the problem, is that usually when a production ramps up, like when you get more shots, if you want to take on more bandwidth, you need to get more artists, more computers, more render power, more space. and there's always things that get neglected along the way, like electricity, things like that. And the problem is that, let's say you buy a big render farm and computers and licenses and everything. When the project's done, you're stuck with all this excess bandwidth that you don't need anymore. Whereas with the cloud, you can just turn it on and then turn it off, and it's so much more efficient. And just curious, like, how do you feel at the moment when it comes to how the world's going with internet and everything else? Do you think that working remotely these days, being able to be, let's say, in Russia and be able to work on a Hollywood movie or something large from anywhere in the world is a lot more capable? Because I feel these days with internet and pipeline and all these like rendering in the cloud, you could pretty much be anywhere in the world and you're not limited the same way that you might have been 15 years ago, where you need to be in a specific location. Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's I think the easier to work on internet now.
Yeah.
Because now the visual effects companies based around the world, in Canada, in Great Britain, in China, and everywhere. And I think the Hollywood movies, it's not like American movies now. It's like planet movies.
Yeah.
But,
I think it's a great time. It's you don't have to be in New York or LA or London. You can be anywhere in the world and be able to have access and be able to do what everyone else is doing.
Yes.
I think it's so cool.
Yes, and the software became the off-the-shelf software became the standard now, and it's easy to share the assets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and I think the bigger company now they using the off-the-shelf software. I think there is no need to write a lot of proprietary software now.
Yeah, I've worked with a few big companies that, watching them grow over the years, they've gone from doing a lot of proprietary stuff to starting to switch to out-of-the-box tools, just because that way they don't have the overhead of having to have a team developing software all the time. And things like Houdini, Nuke, whatever you tend to use, like those sorts of tools are so capable, and you're not paying the programmers, you're just paying for a license, and I think that in the long run, those tools are able to do enough to be able to get what you need done. And then where they're not, that's where you develop. That's where you have people develop a pipeline or tools, is in the specific areas that may be lacking for what you specifically need, rather than it being creating a whole package from scratch just to do what you need to do. So I think that's important.
Yes. And there was a time that the Mike writing some tools in Houdini, his shaders or something, and the next version they have it, having it, and then you say, damn, I will not write news.
You'll just wait this time for them to develop it. That's cool. In general, I think it's been really fascinating just kind of talking about team management and how, as you mentioned, you're in Russia, you've got productions that are shrinking, the budgets are going smaller and smaller. Meanwhile, unfortunately, software, is still, quite expensive, and especially when it comes to currency. And so even though you've got like all these things against you, you've managed to adapt and grow and see how to work more efficiently and manage your teams. I think that's like so amazing to kind of be able to witness, just because, like I said, I feel like a lot of companies, they'll be more focused on, let's just get more jobs in, or let's make our artists work more hours, or whatever it might be, rather than how do we change things up so that way we can get things done better. And I'm just curious, like for you, you mentioned having T people, and having T-shaped. Well, not T people, but T-shaped people.
Yes.
And yeah, again, like I think that approach is so great, kind of like looking at how people work. And do you have any other like realizations for like managing teams, or things that you've found really influenced the way that you work?
The Scrum, it's not like just starting and you working. Because it's agile, and it's always changing. You need to always adapt, because it's not easy. We worked for the year, and we still not happy,
Yeah.
Because we understand that we need to change a lot. And when you're starting to work in a Scrum, it's the team starting if the team is good, and they're not starting as a good team from the beginning, because there is a long process to they need to grow. They need to grow, not they need to grow as a team, because a lot of it's not like, oh, okay, we started to work and that's it. No, they're starting to work and they have a conflicts, and they have to build the empathy, and it's some the stormy time in the process of building a team, and then when they became a good team, they start to build the social capital.
Mm-hmm.
They became friends, and they built that new trust, and etc. etc. So it's a process, and it's a long process, and because we're growing, because we're expanding, there is no easy way to implement Scrum, because we needed I think a lot more time, and 1 year is not enough.
Yeah, it's always a process. It takes time.
Yes, it takes time, because the new people that we're hiring in a company, they're not familiar with Scrum, and for somebody it's shocking, because when they reading, because I have a lot of I have a Facebook, I'm writing a lot of stuff on it, and I always speaking about the Agile and the Scrum, and a lot of people saying, oh, it's cool, I like it, I like the way you're working, because they say it's the same, I feel the same, but when they start to work, and they and understand that it's not easy, because you need to act different, you need to behave different in the team, and there's a lot of pain, a lot of problems, a lot of conflicts, and a lot of the social stuff, communication problems, and so we need a time, and I think if we will build much more teams that we have now, and in that moment I will be happy.
Yeah.
And now we still try to find the ways, because we have a great artists in our company that don't like Scrum, but they are great, and they are very good, very nice people. So we need to try to find a way to adapt them, and adapt. Maybe we need to find like some sort of hybrid. Hybrid. It's a right word.
Yeah.
Hybrid teams. Maybe we need to find some teams will be Scrum teams, and we call some guys like gypsies.
Yeah.
Because there is a few guys in our company that they don't want to work, because the Scrum, you're building a team that always a team.
Yeah.
And they're working together, always working together, like a small studio.
Yeah, and the gypsies want to move around from team to team.
Yes, gypsies want to move around, but from team to team, to try to work with different people. And somebody don't want to work inside the Scrum teams, because they not communicate well. They don't like communicate, But they are good artists, and we need to find the right, how to say, we need to right balance.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work in it, and we have this companies here in Moscow who make consulting for the Scrum, because the IT industry, the bank industry, there's a lot of industries now try to make the Kanban, Scrum, this agile frameworks, and we hired them to help us. They make the consulting us, and we sent a few people from our company to the training courses, to how to facilitate the teams, how to work with the conflicts, how to work with the people that they don't want to make Scrum, etc., etc. So we're still working on it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, catering to all the different personality types in any team is always really difficult. So it's pretty impressive that you've been so forward about trying to make it happen and facilitating any resistance that you get. So I think it's really impressive. And sorry, it's clearing my throat. So
it's okay.
One last thing, you mentioned before, I'm not sure if you want to talk about this, but talking about overtime versus productivity, how initially going through those articles when I built them, was that something that, like when you initially went through those, like what were some of the key takeaways that you found kind of interesting or might have found appropriate for your teams at the time?
It was for me. I reacted very how to say, because you wrote in that article that was I thought at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm some sort of workaholic, and I worked a lot, because there was a time I have one of my it was my first project where I was the visual effects supervisor. Like senior visual effects supervisor. It was a movie called Turkish Gambit. It was like 11 years ago. Or no, not 11, 14 years ago. And I worked on this movie for 2 years, and average time day working, it was like 40 or 15 hours, 14 or 15 hours, 7 days a week. It was 2 years, and it was very hard for me. And at that moment that I understood that it's not good to work overtime. And from that time when we started our company, I don't like overtimes, because it's people are burned and people are tired, and they start working not effective, and the morale is going low. And but now we have a lot of overtimes now. But
it's a necessary evil, but I think it's more about doing it when it's necessary. It's kind of like a sprint. You don't burn your people out at the very beginning. Everyone realizes that they have to put in some overtime, here and there, and that's fine. But just doing it for the sake of getting that extra bit from your artist, that's where I feel like you're squeezing someone or stretching them too thin. So yeah.
So I don't like overtimes. And we tried with that. That's why we started the Scrum, because it's always like you're starting a project, and it's always you're thinking, oh, there is a lot of time now, and you're making things not efficient in the beginning. But in the deadlines, you're making everything very efficient.
Yeah.
Because you're not doing some unreasonable stuff. You're making only for the result. And the Scrum, and you said sprints, because the Scrum have sprints. Because
exactly.
yes, you have sprints, and you have deadlines every week. The smaller deadlines, because it's in this framework.
Yeah,
And
mini goals.
yes, and we start. The main idea was to get rid from this overtime work, because you're working on the sprints and the Scrum, and you try to work more efficient. And when you're working efficient, then you don't need to overtime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good. And yeah, I mean, for me, I guess I wrote that after doing like a ridiculously pointless amount of overtime, like for 3 months solid, where I was sleeping at my desk. And I've done my fair share of big projects, but I feel like at one point you go from being productive to making mistakes. If you start working crazy hours, you start to resent your job. It's just so poisonous in a way to burn yourself out, and in the end, a lot of the mistakes you make from not sleeping and all the stress,
yes.
It ends up costing just as much time as if, rather than just doing it right the first time. And I agree, like having those mini goals, like doing a sprint and having those deadlines every week, that way you can measure where you're currently at, and you're always pushing yourself forward, but it's pointless to say, well, we need to deliver the whole movie this week, rather than we need to deliver this tiny bit. And by kind of drip feeding people their responsibilities, they're able to tackle and move forward, as they go, which I think is really critical.
Yes, and one of the problems that it's the middle management, like the leads and the department supervisors, and they are great guys, but they are thinking that they understand what director wants.
Right.
And it's always the problem, because they are making a lot of comments to the team, and remaking, and then show it to the overall supervisor, and the overall supervisor making new comments, and after that they showing to the client, and the director making new comments, and it's not efficient. And in Scrum, the teams that have these sprints, that mini goals, and we're showing everything to director. And the supervisor, it's not like he's a person who's saying, like main decision maker. The supervisor is helping that what we want to build. That the supervisor is helping director or the producer or the client to helping to find what he wants.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yes, and work directly to the team because it's a more efficient way, I think.
Yeah, I've had plenty of those projects where I think like Metallica was one where you would get all this feedback from the client, and the client would tell you, change it this, and it needs to be more like this. And then 30 minutes later, they go to Metallica and show all your work, and then they come back with completely different feedback. And it's like, well,
Yes,
why didn't you just wait 30 minutes and then give me direction? You know what I mean?
yes, yes,
Yeah, it's about making the right decisions and not just guessing a lot of the time, I think. So
yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
but that's so cool. I mean, it's been really great to talk to you, and yeah, just again seeing how you guys manage your teams and how everyone manages themselves. It's pretty inspiring. Like I think that every studio can learn a lot from seeing how you guys do your work. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. But I have a lot of on a Facebook. I have a lot
Hmm.
of people who opposite me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. That a lot of people who saying that's it's not okay, it's not working, and it's like
Well, I think it is working. What is it?
I
800 shots and 180
yeah
people, like
yeah
3 months.
I think it is working, but there is a lot of people who don't understand it and who
Yeah.
thinks that it's like bullshit. I don't know, some sort of religious stuff,
people
because
people love to oppose anything that they don't understand.
yes,
And
and the people they're very conservative.
yeah, but that's just it. Like I think that there's people who follow like the normal path of, and I think it's kind of like how I mentioned before about cooking or anything else. You got to get your hands dirty. Well, I think it's the same deal, that people can either follow the same path because it's what everyone else does, or there's going to be people who innovate and change things up, and they're the ones who are able to succeed and grow. And I think that applies to everything. You look at yeah, I mean, just I was going to talk about how in Spain a lot of the roads that were built today are all built by cows following the same path every day. But just in general, it's one of those things that, yeah, I really think that you've got to think independently and look at, okay, what's working, let's keep doing that, or let's do more of that. But what's not working, well, let's change that up. And people are always afraid of change, and people always tend to think, well, let's just do what everyone else does because that's safe, rather than thinking differently. And the ones who do think differently are the ones who get ahead. So yeah, I think it's important to take those risks and learn and grow. So I think that it's proof that the work that you guys are doing and where you're headed is proof that it isn't bullshit, and it's working very effectively.
Yeah, and the interesting that I'm not thinking. I started this because I'm not thinking that the working, like everybody working is a safe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
Yeah.
that it's a safe, because I see a lot of companies struggling, a lot of companies broken, and a lot of great companies are dead now.
Yep. No,
And
that's what I mean. And
yeah, yeah,
that's what I mean
so
by safe, is that they
yes,
see it as safe. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, yeah,
let's just
yeah,
stick to the normal.
yeah, but it's not safe.
No, it isn't. And that's what
It's not safe.
like I said at the very beginning, it's like the fact that rather than you looking at Main Road Post as let's just keep doing what we're doing and either work our workers harder, or let's just try and get more jobs, which means work our workers harder. Instead, you reevaluated how you're going to do things, and even when there's resistance within the teams with change, you're still able to say, okay, well, look, let's try this, let's push forward and see how it works. And that's what I mean, like
Yes, yes,
the fact
yes.
that you're willing to go away from what others would consider safe and just actually do things differently. It meant that you don't go down that path where everyone else is like, well, everyone else is doing it. There's a lot of psychology cases where, I won't talk forever about this, but like there's been a lot of cases where like basically if you were to get stabbed in the middle of the street, you're more safer if one person was to see you then you're a lot safer there than if a group of people sees you getting stabbed. Because what will happen is if one person sees you, they'll get on the phone and they'll call an ambulance and you'll get rescued. Whereas if there are several people on the street and they all see you, everyone typically will mimic everyone else's reactions. They'll look to what other people are doing to see how they should respond.
Yes.
And there's been so many cases of this, even ones where like a woman got stalked all around the streets in Queens, New York for hours, and everyone in the buildings, like no one called the cops, no one did anything. And afterwards they were all interviewed saying, why didn't you call anyone? Why didn't you try and help? And every single one of them was like, well, I don't know, no one else was doing that. And typically everyone else tries to mimic what everyone else is doing because that's what they consider safe is, well, if everyone else is doing it, I'll do it too. And that's what I mean.
Yes.
You're
right.
Box.
You're right.
But so I mean, this has been so great, and I appreciate you taking the time. Like, for those who want to find out more about you or about Main Road Post, like, is there any links or social media that you want to share?
We are on Facebook. You can find us like Main Road Post. We have a website, and it's www.mrpost.ru. And yes, that's it, I think. And on the LinkedIn.
Everyone can share their thoughts about Scrum.
It will be great. I will be happy because I have a good friend. He worked in our company for some time ago, and now he working in Poland in the company called Platic Animation. Yes, he started some time ago. He started using Scrum there, and he's tried to build the Scrum inside the Platic.
Cool.
It's yes, and he think it's great, but he have a lot of opposition inside the company.
Cool. No, I love it, and it's contagious. Your encouragements are growing into other people.
Yeah. So I will be happy if somebody will write us and we will talk about Scrum.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again for taking the time. I know it's late there, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. And thank you again. It's a great honor for me to talk with you. Thank you.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that episode. Again, thank you, Arman, for taking the time to do this episode. I had a blast. I really found this to be really inspiring, and I wish the best of luck to Main Road Post. I have no doubt they're going to be killing it and doing some amazing stuff over the coming years. So that being said, if you want to get in on the mentorship, this is your last chance before you miss out, and we won't be opening up registration again for at least another year. So if you want to be a part of this, go to allanmckay.com/fireball, and you'll be able to register there, as well as get access to the free training, which is going to be an insane amount of visual effects training you get access to for free. And finally, if you want to check out the show notes, go to allanmckay.com/87. Now, next episode, I'm going to be doing a career intensive. So this is the first time I've ever done a public career intensive. This is something that I do inside of the FXTD mentorship, where we all get together and we're able to discuss our goals, obstacles, things standing in our way. And I give a lot of career advice about how to really level up your career. And this is going to be the first time I ever do a public career intensive, which I'm really excited about. So again, if you sign up for the free Fireball training, you'll have a chance to participate in that this week. And then I'm going to be posting the episode next week for the live career intensive. So I'm really excited about this. It's going to be super cool. So I'm going to leave it there. Check out the free training and check out the show notes, allanmckay.com/87. And I'll talk to you soon. Rock on.